Well,
Now I feel like
we're going to be waiting a little bit on Dark Wolf. I mean, whether she's here for this part or not, I think the show can go on, and we'll pick up where we left off. Because you know what, for some reason it's Tuesday again. I don't know how this keeps happening. We think
Your
it's behind
webcam's
us.
still black to us, though.
Oh, whoops. There we go.
the inexorable passage of time.
But it is wonderful to see you all again, and despite any little technical glitches that we may be experiencing, which hopefully we won't, but hey, you know what? Things happen. We're here, and we're going to get our done.
Yep.
I'll be right. Something
Yep.
I gotta grab.
Yep. Then while we're setting up, let's. I'm not sure I understand the signal strength measure, but I don't know if that's an incredibly weak, an incredibly strong, or an incredibly somewhere in between.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Okay.
So I'll probably disappear at some point.
Okay, duly noted. Then we will do our best then to just
to be clear, my computer is also doing the same thing. So
hold my hand, and we'll get through this together, everyone. Somehow we'll make this work. I have paper clips, duct tape, and even some chewing gum, and we'll keep this bucket flying. All right.
Best way to rig things.
Yep.
Take my hand off to Never Never Land.
If only I had electric guitar skills.
Right.
I used to, but I don't have an electric guitar anymore.
Oh.
So you have the skills. You're not lying there. It's just you don't have the way to display them.
Oh, was that a personal hobby, or were you in a band? A little bit of both?
Was in a couple of different bands, not anymore, and yeah. Otherwise, it was just a personal hobby.
Oh well, heck.
Okay.
I love learning stuff about folks. You know, we've been playing for so long, and here we go. We go learning something new.
So lethality, does that mean you and me need to get together so I can end up doing vocals and you do thrash riffs?
Oh gosh.
You lost the way.
No, honestly, I played a lot more metalcore than I did thrash. Although I did learn some some Slayer and some Testament.
I've always been more black metal myself. You know, I've done a fair amount of guttural vocals. Some of that would probably take me about a month to get back into.
Yeah, no, I tried to stay away from guttural vocals just because it's like if you try to push yourself too hard too quickly, you will wreck your voice.
Well, if you don't know what you're doing, but I mean, take a look at Arch Enemy, right? Angela is a perfect example. Operatic training and has her voice completely normal, but dear God, if you wouldn't know it if you ever listen to Ravenous.
Yeah.
Technology. All right, that goes over here, so things stop hitting my keyboard and causing exactly like that. All right.
Exactly. There you go.
Yes, this is exactly what happens and what occurs.
Yep, we got some bits coming in.
Muffin. So McFluffy Muffin, it looks like you are looking to be a fickle god. And I would ask, you can either shout it out in chat, or if you want to send me a super secret note, what you would like to have that go towards. This would be like a small boon or a small bane for or against me as a DM. I'll subject myself to this. Or if you wish to support a player, you can do so. And now you all are back until invariably something else like a cat
happens.
Maybe. Until something else like a cat. You know, really saying that a cat happens is very appropriate.
Yep. Very true. Very
it
true.
may sound odd at first, but then really, especially if you're a cat owner, just saying, "Oh yeah, my cat happened." That's 100% all
Lots
context.
of people will understand what that context is.
Cross-cultural. I mean, we're talking a unification. All right. Well, let's begin. McFluffy Muffin, you have a little bit of time to get a message over to me when you want to pull the trigger on your, on a little, like a +1, -1, a little influence on the story. Maybe something coincidental happens that's roleplay. It's not even mechanical. Let me know, but let's get into our characters' heads by doing just that. And asking about the current state of our story, the journey so far, through each of their unique perspectives. And maybe the best person to start us off would be the newest acquaintance here to the newly dubbed Chroma Company. And I don't know if Selter was like spit on her hand and got in on the pact here, but we'll see what ends up happening. But Selter, you are in a very unique position right now. I guess in terms of the grand scheme of things, maybe with some knowledge that you have, or otherwise your own reasoning, proclivities, lifestyle, hopes, dreams, goals, etc. And so.
Oh, you want to know more about me, darling?
Oh yeah, come on.
That's my
talk
favorite
yourself up.
subject.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I think it first has to end up coming to my dear acquaintance, who, if you happen to noticing, is all too radiant, shall we say? Lack of a snout notwithstanding. But, nevertheless, he has his charms, knows how to treat a lady. So, I'll hold that against him all night. But, then I had to, well, how shall I place this? I was asked to accompany these adventurers. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue. Chroma Company. Now, there's a name I can start to enjoy, and it truly is a colorful menagerie. Now, for some odd reason, I have only just now discovered Mordecai, and Mordecai ended up putting on quite the performance. In a backwater sort of way, I'm sure. It was quite impressive for the time, and if it was presented and he had a certain degree of professionalism, I could see him performing in great ample theaters, but I'm supposed this tavern will have to do.
Yeah, Green Shield isn't exactly a bustling metropolis.
Oh, it's... Look, I already feel dirt under my talons at this point, and it's just not... Ugh. No sense of fashion, no sense of dress, no sense of performance. I mean, everybody tries to be so kind and modest. It's so boring. But at the very least that we end up having the nice little company. I might remember a... what was the name? Oh, yes, Chicken Nugget. Now, Chicken Nugget ends up having these wonderful pink plumes. I absolutely love them, but almost as much as Mordecai's hair. I just play with that all day. And then we have the nun, Selene. I'm fairly certain that she wouldn't understand seduction if she was caught in a brothel, and well, I'll tell that story another time, but that's behind closed doors, honey. You'd have to pay for that company. Now, that's not to end up saying I think ill of all of them. There is the lookout, the old eyeball who ended up catching me. Oh,
yeah.
What was her name? Nora... she doesn't matter. But she was kind enough to end up eavesdropping on me while I was simply gaining an understanding of who it was I was going to work with. And then she ended up saying that I was eavesdropping on the group. How rude!
Well, youth these days, I mean, especially in Mesomasca, it's just not like it was in older times.
I mean, look at the way that she dresses, after all. I mean, couldn't she at least wear something more revealing? She has such a wonderful frame, and she decides to hide it up. I don't know what's wrong with her. I swear, she must have been raised by the nun.
Well, Selene does roll around in some long robes and such, so, yeah, it's, youth these days, I swear. Well, Selter, it sounds like you definitely are one to suffer for your art and are willing to tolerate a lot for love and following your passions.
Oh, you have no idea how true that is. In character or out of character.
Oof! Very good, then. Thank you for that little glimpse of Selter of Selter vision here. And why don't we hop over to our nun, Selene, and Selene, you've been kind of studious. You've been a little upset, maybe even withdrawn. Now, you can correct me if I'm mistaken. What's going on through your noggin right now?
Well, I suppose I have been rather studious at this point. It's just the death of Jade just doesn't sit well with me. As someone who prioritizes the natural order, it is just something so unnatural. Very much doesn't sit well with me. And then to have particular Dragonborn come in and say what they have. Let me be frank, I want to beat her head in. I want to beat her head in with a mace.
Is that the natural order of things?
It's just like, oh, I could make it the natural order.
Oh.
It's like,
honey, if you wanted to, we can toss and tumble all night.
It's like, not if you were the last woman on Earth.
Now, ladies, you know that tabaxi are not played in the system we're going through, so we got to keep the cat fighting. I'm sorry. Do proceed.
There are things that I do and things that I sometimes partake in, but Salter wouldn't know anything about those. So just because I choose to keep that part of my life private doesn't mean it doesn't happen. But no, I'm more concerned with this ritual that Phoenix has planned, and frankly, I'm very curious to see what goes on in this little thing that he has planned.
Is there anything else you'd like to add then, as we inch closer and closer to the day of the ritual?
No, I'll just be studying and trying to make sense of what has happened and maybe get some guidance from Weejas.
All right.
Her knows I need it.
Let's go over, let's see, so we shifted over to the right. Let's leap over Selter to the left and go towards Bright. Bright, aka Chicken Nugget, according to Selter. What's going on with you?
Hey, so I'm not a chicken nugget. I just want to make that clear to everyone. I mean, sometimes I might taste a little like strawberries, especially if I have to donate blood, but that's not the same as chicken. I know that she's a dragonborn and she doesn't necessarily understand the way, all these things work, but strawberries and chicken are very different. Also, there's no gnome fillet in Mesomasca. I looked before I came here. So, moving on, I'm really kind of worried about the ritual that Sophonic's wants to do, because Sophonic's, is, I mean, a lot of his information has turned out to be a little out of date, and most of the stuff he tries to do doesn't really work, and everything he tells us turns out to be wrong. And so I'm sure he means well, but I don't really trust him to get this right. And so I'm actually really concerned that there will be weird side effects and bad problems, and hopefully we won't all get turned into chickens. Because that would be really ironic, I think. At this point for me, and also for Mordecai, when you think about it. So that's all.
Mordecai put his time.
I want to see what happens.
All right. Well, you are indeed correct. Where Sophonix seems to be a person of great power-ish, but he's out of place, out of time, a little bit of a throwback in some ways. Where he seems to know a lot, but a lot of what he knows isn't very relevant or current or meaningful. All right, then we're gonna hop back over to Mordecai and what'eth uppeth.
Well, this dragonborn, what was her name? She's definitely a personality. I've known many people who have been very, very charismatic in this same sort of way. I'm not necessarily one of those people. It's strange. Because she just wants to be the center of attention, and I don't necessarily jive with people very well who are like that. The thing that kind of concerns me is Selene's reaction to her, though. Selene kind of took a bit of a dark turn in regards to her being introduced to us. That's a little weird. But Selene is never one to really express to the rest of us what it is that she's feeling. Thinking maybe, but never feeling.
That is an interesting point. And Mordecai, you do seem to be rather empathetic towards the people that are around you, and trying to read their emotions, and their emotions have an impact on yours. And so Selene is Selene says things, but what does she feel? That's a very good question.
She always comes off as super aloof, and can never truly read a person who's super aloof. They have a lot to hide. I'm never one to pry. I am not going to ask her any real questions, really. I mean, yes, I'm concerned, but I don't know. We're kind of all in the same boat in that we all have the same goals, really. More or less. And but yeah, the concern about Sophonix is definitely on my mind. He's definitely proven that his information's out of date, and I really don't trust that he is telling us the whole story or telling us all that he knows. I have trouble believing that he's actually a big, powerful dragon. That's a bit outlandish. But given the amount of things that we've seen lately, I'm starting to think that these big outlandish things are not so outlandish after all, because we've had waterfalls come after us. We've had the Fae turning people into crystals. We've had
Mordecai.
A person get eaten by a tree.
Mordecai. Selene proceeds to hold up the eyeball in the Hessian sack.
And apparently Fomorians.
Indeed. Don't think I don't keep this handy right by my desk, everyone. I know there's an eyeball in that bag.
So many outlandish things happening in Mesomasca right now, and it's just hard to not believe it anymore.
Yes. In some strange other world that exists, there's what is rumored to be a curse that says, "May you live in interesting times." And as well, there is a saying from that same region in this other world that goes, "Nothing is as it seems, neither is it otherwise." So, things to consider. Now,
Wake up juice.
nothing perhaps can ever truly replace who Jade was or wasn't, even to you, Mordecai. But after the performance you put on the prior night, are you, is this a step forward? Do you feel a little bit recovered? Not completely, but is this? I don't know. Is the wind in your sails? Maybe that's a better way of putting it.
I feel that Jade will always be a part of this company, whether she's with us or not. And my hope is that she's found peace. Whatever that means. And kind of my performance was for all of us. In that I hope that it kind of meant something. That it's worthy of her.
Well, I think the crowd reacted as they did, and even Selter gave you her input. I mean, it might have been unsolicited, but if it means anything to you, even she was willing to talk to you about that. In its own way, you stirred people's emotions, and sometimes that's just what you got to do. You don't know where they're going to end up, but you stir them up, and then everything just gets to settle back down, maybe at a nice even level. So, all right. Well, is there anything else then that you wanted to throw in there, or are we going to? I'll give a brief recap on Noralai's behalf, but anything else from your point of view?
Just that the things that Selter said in the stairwell, they've been resonating with me a little bit. Maybe I don't have my priorities straight. Maybe I need to think on that.
All right then. Well, time is always an issue, but perhaps for someone in your particular capacity, Mordecai, as a vampire, you may, I stress may, have more of it than others, if we're looking at things in the long term. But that'll be up to you, right? I think everyone's kind of stirred up, and we need to find out where our emotions and thoughts and goals, priorities, hopes, dreams, fears, etc. are all going to shift back down into kind of this unique colored sand pattern here. Then I will step in on behalf of Noralai and say that well, I caught this weird lady. She had her face by the door, and so I cast a darkness spell and plunged her into it because she was just being really weird, and I wanted everyone to know. And then things happened, and I was tending the animals, and they seemed to be doing all right. Mordecai, remember you have a blood egg, and I think that's about it from Noralai's point of view.
I take exception to that.
I don't know if Noralai, I mean, she might bring you up, but like just calling you kind of a weird lady is probably.
That's what I take, darling.
Oh, then correct the record for Norlai then. Maybe it is clearly a case where Norlai is jealous of your fashion and your forwardness.
Justifiably so, I might add.
Well, you seem to be a woman who can find whatever or whomever she's after, and in her own way, Norlai is trying to find someone, and is doing the best she can. But maybe she just needs to be more aggressive in her approach.
Oh, well, she's a tiefling after all. There's only so much they can do.
Yeah, I have noted there is definitely a.
It's not her fault.
Oof.
If nothing else, there's at least common ground where you have magnificent horns like they do, and so if that's a starting point, then maybe we can bridge a gap somewhere.
Oh, trust me, everybody notices the horns.
Very good. All right then, let's slip into things here, and where we had left off was with this night or last night, depending. We had a concert put on that was supported by Bright and Norlai. Selter, you were in the audience, and Sophonix was as well. Although you knew that he changed his appearance, Selter. And after the concert, you ended up having words with Mordecai on the stairs, as we see here. Bright, you did a really good time you did a really good job of making some posters. And for people who didn't follow along with that, check out the side roleplay, because I thought that was described very well. There was just something so charming and professional at the same time to have this little calligrapher gnome just up on a table, just sort of like on hands and knees, just kind of, with like the tongue out, like you're trying to get the strokes correct, and drawing and just sort of like wiggling around, and the little floofs are kind of going everywhere. You're trying not to have them, drip into the wet ink.
Not gonna lie, I was gonna draw that.
Oh,
I thought you did. You started to. You drew me on the table.
I did.
Oh, then I would look forward to seeing that, because it's extremely fun and wholesome at the same time.
Try.
Yes.
Selene, we had a cutaway to you who were studying books. You're going through. You're just trying to put things together. Your foul mood kind of seemed to make you a little antisocial, but at the same time, you weren't trying to be anti-productive. You still wanted to do something, and you know what? Maybe in your own way, this is your form of, this is an expression of yourself. So Mordecai might not recognize it as such, but this is I'm not going to put words in your mouth. This could be how you grieve, or how you handle stress, or how you do a lot of different things here. And we ended up leaving last week upon a revelation that you had, or at least a pieces, parts put together in front of you as you've been going through your books, and you've been trying to go through just what has happened, because it's been nonstop for you all, right? I mean, you're on a ship to Mesomasca for your own purposes. You have your own lives. Mordecai, you're already in Mesomasca, but in context, for I guess the
I was fixing to leave, actually.
Yeah, you're all right. So you were fixing to leave, and now two of you had your own reasons for. Oh, geez, that sounds really. What have I done to you all? There's only two of you left who are on the boat to Mesomasca. I'm such a bad person.
Well, clearly they weren't important, darling.
Oh, they must.
Now
have
the
been.
real
They
stars
sort of,
have arrived.
Chaff
We
from
can
the
get this show on the road.
a
I think Raphael would beg to differ on that one.
Rafa, who?
It's just like, he's walking around as a probably revenant now.
But is he in this room right now?
He could be.
That's not our problem. It's really that simple. Deal with what's in front of you. Take what you want and take a look around. I mean, look at all these beautiful people. I mean, any one of them could be yours, darling. All you need to do is reach out. And you'd probably... Oh, sorry, I forgot who I was talking to. The prude, the nun. How virtue and pious you must be.
I did not put this together until just now, but as you wish to be the star of the show, we often think of stars as bright, shiny, you know, like kind of yellowy white, you know, just exuding radiance. And in here we actually have like a muted star, and in an out of game context, my brain kicked over. There's a character in Soul Eater named Black Star.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And suddenly I cannot now get this. I cannot get this image out of my mind, and I love it. Anyway, I'm sorry. This is my side amusement here. This is my little fun takeaway as a DM.
Selene just kind of raises a brow, and it's like, frankly, you may think what you like.
And I do.
Are we even in the same room?
No, not. This is a. You know what?
But
No, very much.
That's
Selter could be imagining this in her head, and Selene up in her like in the study. It's just like having this conversation. Like, yeah, you would say.
They're in each other's heads, and having a conversation independently
with each other.
Just thinking of one thing.
But it's like you can think that if you'd like, you know, whatever you perceive to be the truth and what the truth actually is might be two different things, but you have a forceful enough personality that nothing on that level is going to change your mind until you actually see it for yourself. So I'm not going to waste my effort. You're not worth the energy.
I'm going to need to end up getting her hooked up. I'd like to see that.
Well, I mean, I'll share a little. I will share a little insight that she does have interest in someone.
Well,
Who that is?
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
We'll cross that bridge.
Yeah.
Let's just
think
hope
it would
it's
be
not over
hilarious. The
stream.
more prudent you get, the more Soul needs to hook you up.
Ooh, we have an ally.
Hey.
Hello.
Welcome.
We got an woo.
There we go. I gotta bump everyone down just a wee little bit. And all right, so this is Selter, you and well, you don't have to go with Siphonix, but he is gonna take off, and on his way out, he's gonna remind you that he is gonna need your help with the ritual tomorrow. And so he's going to give you a location to be at and a time, and he's going to give you some money and tell you to buy something pretty, and thank you.
Oh. Well, I'm already dressed better than everybody here. I mean, even the nobles are giving me a second look, darling.
Bright, Mordecai, and Norlai, having recovered from your light show, your light and sound show, you go up the stairs, and there is Selene, who apparently is just sort of, she's in her book, and she's just kind of, I guess, grinding her teeth a little bit, like, yeah, you would say that, wouldn't you? Just having a moment of self-reflection here. But you are welcome to interact with each other here as the night continues on, and there's whatever this ritual is that Siphonix has promised to perform for you all. Is I'm sorry for everything that's happened.
Walking into the room and seeing that she's kind of got like this scowl on her face? Question mark. I just kind of bow into the room and say,
slight frown, but not really a scowl.
Your entertainment has arrived.
She'll just hop up and she'll just look up and turn. It's like, oh, it's just you, Monica.
Yes. Who else did you think it was?
Oh, I just hope that it wasn't that Dragonborn. There's a couple of things I'd like to say to her.
You've been brooding about her all night?
No, I've actually been doing other more productive things. But it's been in the back of my head having a hypothetical conversation.
Well, made some decent money. You missed a good show. Bright put in some work and was actually, like, super helpful.
It's true. I've been working on some of my illusions lately. I do.
The rainbow one was actually fairly awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
It's like, well,
that's why we're Chroma Company.
That's good to hear. It's just my mind has been elsewhere, and prefer to get something productive done than to, be brooding downstairs and cut through the atmosphere like a knife. Because I'd rather not do that.
Performing for people is productive. Everyone's so much happier than they were right before we did it.
Oh yes, quite. It's just it's not the kind of productive that I myself can get into right now. That's all. And me being down there and being broody would have taken away from that. So instead, I decided to be up here and be productive in a different way.
Okay. Well, what did you get done? Did you learn any spells?
No, not any new spells, but I've made a couple of revelations, given the things that we know.
Oh.
Now, so I know I don't have anything like it, but I'd like to do just a little bit of, token magic, as it were, just to draw out this this revelation, given the notes that she has in front of for Bright and Mordecai.
Okay.
So basically, like her hand would glow with a little bit of light, and she kind of sets some stuff out, and she begins writing and linking things together.
Where are you writing this?
Also, I wanted to use magic just to have it superimposed on top of the stuff lying on the floor.
Oh, do you have what, like minor illusion or something?
Some kind of token magic like that, yeah. Do I have anything like that? Do I have access to anything like that?
I don't know what your cantrips. I mean, I could peek at your sheet, but I don't know which cantrips that you have.
Yeah. I don't think clerics get minor illusion, but I could help you if it's something. I mean, I can.
Yeah. No, I'll get Brett to help me, because then I know that she can do it.
Okay.
And like she directs Bright to what she wants to do, what she wants to show, and eventually.
Okay.
So basically, it'll be this outline of, everything to do with the Fomorians, the giants, and the dragons, and then the creation, like the notes that she has on the Fae, and then everything she has on the vampires, and then the particular notes that she has on the Fomorians and things wanting to come back, and how, her musings on, is Sephinix a dragon or not? Question mark. And she's like, there's this connection here, there's this pattern here.
Okay. So I'm gonna do this with major image, and I'm gonna put a big, like a, I don't know the right word for it, but one of those big cork boards, like on a stand, and with all the little papers and things, and the little strings connecting the lines together, so that we can do that.
Flowchart.
It's not really a flowchart.
It's like a corkboard chart.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah, just like they do in the crime shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I will note, no matter the year that we're playing in, you know, we consider this to be a fantasy times of Get Ye Flask in simpler days. Only now in 2019 do we have 3D MS Paint to do this sort of stuff. So we've had to wait 1,000 years for technology to come up to something that is that a simple, wonderful gnome can do, just like this. So
yep,
isn't magic grand?
Of course, mine only lasts for 10 minutes.
That's fine. 10 minutes.
That's the difference.
Yeah, but you also don't need a 600 gold piece headset for it too.
Yeah.
So.
After 10 minutes, we'll have to switch back to the cantrips. They're not as good. They're only 5 feet instead of 15.
That's fine.
The whole
That's
side
fine. But and she'll set this out that, you know, there's this, it's like you see this connection with the Fomorians, the giants, the dragons, then the Fae, and then the vampires, the undead, and then the Fomorians wanting to come back in evidence of there possibly being of the return of dragons. Possibly. That's the most conjecture part of her thing, is like, we're in this loop of, you know, X, Y, Z, and then X again.
Think this is cyclical?
Yes, I'm thinking it's cyclical.
It's an interesting idea. I mean, from what they told us, from what Symphonics told us, it's pretty linear. First there were the dragons, and then there were the humans, and then there were the fairies. And it's weird for fairies to come after humans. That's not the legends that I've heard, but I guess that's what Symphonics said. But, you know, it's just been a kind of a linear progression. Where would it go back to the beginning? Is it because the Fomorians and dragons are coming back? Do you think we don't want Fomorians and dragons, even though they're opposed probably to the Fae and the vampires? They might even be worse. Is that what we're worried about?
Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this in confidence, and I'm not sure that Symphonics actually knows this. The Fomorians were banished by the Fae.
Okay.
That is what the Fomorians themselves told me.
And you trust that to be the truth?
Well, they didn't lie, because the evidence seems to point to that actually happening.
But then
that doesn't conflict with what Symphonics said.
Well,
does it?
It somewhat does, because he said that the Fae came after humanity.
True.
But this seems to have happened before humanity.
Well, Symphonics could be wrong. It's been known to happen.
Yeah.
No, he's been known to be wrong. Very wrong. You know, flesh tree type wrong. It's about as wrong as you can get.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen so many distorted gnome faces in my life. I will just note that, you know, I've never seen that many distorted gnome faces ever.
I've only known like 2 gnomes in my life.
Should I be jealous? Who is the other gnome?
The one I apprenticed with.
Oh, okay, I'm not jealous now.
No, you're by far my favorite.
Okay, that's good.
I'm trying to think if that was a backhanded compliment.
But no,
what?
Just
what makes you think that the Fae banished the Fomorians after humanity came? Because that's
what I'm saying. It could have happened after humanity came.
Yeah.
If they could have all existed at the same time.
Well, see, no.
Could have coexisted even.
And the reason we say that is this. The plan they have now, they're coming back, they're returning, as the Fae said, they're coming back, they're returning the world to the old ways, or so all arms put it. That gives me the feeling that after the Fomorians were banished, the Fae themselves were removed by the humans, and the humans so changed the world. And the Fae, well, the Fae have been looking way back for a very long time. And only now have they actually managed to do it and to start changing things. They wouldn't have thought to, use humans as vessels, wouldn't require the use of humans as vessels for themselves. If something hadn't happened to get rid of them in the first place, we wouldn't see these piecemeal constructions like Orlan's being made out of scrap and clockwork.
Didn't Symphonix also say that the Fae were an experiment that had gone wrong?
Quite.
Or an experiment that they'd lost track of, or something?
An experiment lost track of by those who came before them, yes. How better to revolt against one's masters than by banishing them?
Given the nature of the conversation and the fact that you have this, you still have the effects of this major image that Bright can manipulate and move things around. Like Bright is your Jarvis right now for Tony Stark, right? You are like 3D engineering. The plot and every and the things that you've learned here. Although Bright is probably more personable than Jarvis.
Well, I mean, it depends on if you mean the Jarvis who's the computer program or the Jarvis from World War II. Because he's pretty fun, actually. I really liked him.
Okay, that's discuss.
Sorry.
What one of you here can give me an investigation at advantage?
Not me.
I don't mind. I'll do it.
Yeah, you have the highest modifier, I think.
17.
Ooh.
Okay. As you're putting these pieces together, and actually it is appropriate that I guess Norlai wouldn't have been able to do this, I don't think, but for the others here and Bright especially, you're talking about the Fae and the things that they do to people, and you're trying to put in some sort of an order, a timeline, whether it's linear or cyclical. And you were in the Fae realm or an extension of it, and you were exposed to not just what they do to people, but you saw a part of them. Perhaps it was it had to have been meaningful because it was decorated or carved otherwise into the cave walls as you're going through this mine that was manifesting, that was sort of like being laid over by the Feywild or some other presence as the entities were emerging here. You saw art or carvings or a depiction of...
It was a blue dragon.
Of Fey, of things that were happening. And there might be a clue there if you can trust the Fey. I guess that's a qualifier, but you were in their realm and you did see how they live, how they act, and things that could be important to them. And there you go. If that helps jog any memories.
I just remember the art of the blue dragon.
Yeah, the art of the blue dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed almost industrial in a way. I mean, they had employees there. They had like a break room. They had all those. It was like a little bedroom, and they had like a prison complex. It was like it was a processing center. So, it It seemed very much mechanical, as mechanical as things can be with the Fae.
Hmm. Thinking back, Matty, what
Mhm.
did Orlans and the blue dragon mural that we saw in that same room? Did they have the same shape?
Orlan's in that glowing kind of goo algae room. Yes.
Was he trying to imitate that image? Is that is that the kind of conclusion I can come to?
Yes. I mean, when you're making a draconic form out of mining equipment that's kind of held together by this, it's not going to be a perfect representation.
Yeah, to the best of its ability, but that's
the body structure. So, for example, it's clear that this dragon didn't have like a long giraffe neck as part of it, and so Orlan's appeared more bodily, like the dragon that you saw, but and even to an extent, this algae was this kind of bluish color as well. So that's a thing? Question mark.
I mean, that's the assumption I come to, is that he's trying to imitate some kind of dragon that they might have met, or maybe even worship.
There certainly was a form of reverence or fear that was depicted in those mines.
Okay.
Probably the same fear that they have carried with them for several thousand years.
But would you keep depictions of a thing that you feared? Or even try and imitate it?
If you respect it out of fear, if you try to evoke that fear in others.
From those...
I mean, it would really depend specifically on their relationship. We don't know enough about like how those things actually happened, or how they feel about the dragons. They could easily be. I mean, if they came after, they could revere them as like elders. Maybe it was even a dragon experiment that went wrong. I mean, maybe we assumed it was a human experiment, but it easily could have been a dragon experiment. So in that case, yeah, they probably would have a lot of reverence.
Whether that reverence was brought about through actual respect or through fear of what the dragons might do to them if they didn't. It's a very powerful... It's a rather curious little thing, the nature of fear and how it affects different beings, but...
That's true.
From those who remain in the room, since Bright gave me an investigation, someone else in the room can give me an investigation at advantage as you are trying to continue putting pieces and parts together.
Mordecai?
I'll go for it. Sure. Ooh.
What I will do, because I did just realize that I do have this, is I will give you a guidance.
Okay, so Bright's in here, like making the 3D map of clues, and so Selene, you're trying. Oh, nice, a nice 4. Mordecai, it's escaping you in specificity, and by that I mean I'm not going to just tell you outright. So I'm gonna ask you to remember it, but I'll prompt you.
Okay.
Beyond the dragon, there was something else that seemed to be notably depicted on the walls as you went down this sort of spiraling carved tunnel. There was something else that the Fae were reacting to in either this fear or reverence, or that was important enough for them to carve into this odd Willy Wonka tunnel style, tunnel or transients from one part of the mine to the next.
It's a shame that they're not great
Down a
chocolatiers.
spiral.
Alongside the dragon, there were depictions of giants, weren't there?
I don't remember that.
I don't remember either. It's been a
Or
while.
there was a depiction of something
There was
on the walls.
I mean, I remember the
something.
flowing words.
A something.
It was a something.
Yes.
Dragon.
Have to think on that for a bit. I think I'll come back to me in a moment, I guess. I don't remember that offhand. But yeah.
Norlai, is there anything you want to chip in? You were held captive by these Fae.
Oh, I didn't realize it was in the room.
Yeah, we're all in the room now.
Okay.
All of you, I'm fairly certain.
Are you going to invite Selter in? Because careful, there's
I'm gonna say I wasn't paying attention. I was stealing cookies.
Oh, all right. So the adults are having an important conversation, and Norlai would like a comfort cookie.
How many cookies are left?
I don't know, actually, because I haven't been keeping track.
I think Norlai, you sniped at least 2 of them last
I
session.
sniped at least.
I think she
I know.
sniped
I know. I failed to swipe last session.
Well, you
No, you
failed to do
didn't.
it discreetly.
Yeah.
No,
Alright,
you
so
gotta use your pass.
Norlai is stress eating here some comfort food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I cast a lot of spells today. I'm tired. I need sugar.
That's fine. I'm not stopping you. I'm just telling you I see you.
Yeah.
I have to go and recount how many cookies we have left at some point because I don't remember.
Okay.
I know. I took one in the side room.
Now, just to be clear, are these the cookies that affect tieflings in a particular way?
These are the ones made
No.
by Bambarless' sons.
Oh,
No,
okay. I just wanted to
the-
double
the-
check because
No, the
you
drugs
know.
affect tieflings. The cookies are fine.
Those
Oh,
are
okay.
cookies.
I'm
Those
just
are brownies.
I'm just
Yeah.
double checking because if that was the case, we need to switch the soundtrack to some Cypress Hill at this point.
Or these are not dream pastries for tieflings.
I'll have to think on that a little bit, I guess. But any other kind of conclusions you came up with, Selene?
What was depicted? There was Fae and some humanoids, along with the dragon.
I don't remember
The
offhand.
the Fae and the humanoids were fleeing and being buried by something, and then the humanoids were returning, but the Fae were crawling back up through the earth that had fallen on them.
I mean, they're coming out of the mountain in Browbeat. That kind of makes sense.
But those humanoids, what if they weren't humans? The only difference between a giant and a human is size.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are more differences between like gnomes and humans than just size.
Well, yes, but the thing is, they're created by different gods, but they're
We're not even sure created by the gods at this point.
general physiology. Well, for the Fae, we know not.
Yeah, but I mean, sure, they have kind of similar physiology, but that doesn't in this context, does it?
I don't know. I've
In-
never.
Elves and humans have almost the same biology, but they're very different.
Well, and are you basing this based on the human or the giant skeletons that you saw in the graveyard? Because bone structure is like kind of universal amongst the humanoids.
No. I wouldn't make that kind of comparison because you are right in that. No, it's. I think that the humanoids on the walls may have been giants.
Well, Selene, as we're having a bit of an impromptu think session here, and I'm apparently giving everyone in the room a chance to try and piece something together. I think there's 2 points that you're trying to noodle over right now, and one of that is either trying to remember what the other thing was, or you want to concentrate on trying to put clues together for the other imagery that you were talking about, the figures, the fleeing or the crawling or the emerging or whatever.
Yeah.
If you would like to dedicate an investigation towards one of those, let me know which one, and then you can roll an investigation at advantage, since Bright is still online.
Yep. I think it's better to, at this point, I think it would be better to focus on the former rather than the latter. So I will make an investigation check on the former. I'll guidance myself while I do it.
Okay, so the one thing that I was talking about, am I correct? That's what you're hoping to?
Yeah, the first thing that we were talking about regarding the nature of
so
the cycle. And...
You say a little prayer to Ouijas as you are priming your brain to think thoughts, and go ahead and roll a
inspiration.
Never mind. Never mind.
All right, so
so I'll take you know what, I'll take the inspiration. Let's because I've already got guidance. Let's just see how far we go.
Well,
here.
you don't need the inspiration. You were doing this at advantage anyway because you still have Brightbot making this making the
bardic
I
inspiration.
think bardic.
Oh, bardic
Bardic
inspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, if you still want to, you know,
Maybe it might.
While generally
maybe...
5th edition is either you do it or you don't, I don't mind playing with shades of success. So that's up to you if you want to.
Yeah.
I'll
Bardic
I'm a big
inspiration.
fan of shades of success.
So that's a 29.
all right.
Up then.
So a 20 on the D20, a 4 on the D4, and then a 5 on the D8.
Gives me a 29.
Divine inspiration has struck your brain.
Words painted in blood appear in the book.
Selene, you're thinking on this, and we might even be able to tie the two together. You did pretty well with this. One thing, a singular, an object, and the object was falling. It was like almost like a mountain or something from the sky, and the Fae were running from it, and this great thing seemed to have caused, well, enough of a catastrophe that they had to hide under the ground in order to avoid what was going on. And it wasn't just the Fae either, because there were these humans, humanoids, and really, unless you get up close, and there wasn't really the opportunity to do so, you know, a person who's been turned into a vampire is still, you know, a vampire stick figure is still a stick figure.
Yeah.
And so, if we're seeing a crawling up or a crawling out in some way, if the humans are somehow experiments or mutations or something along those lines related to the Fae and the vampires alike, and it all seems to link back to this this thing that fell out of the sky.
Meteor.
In the art, anyway.
Wait, meteor.
Yeah, the meteor it landed in. Yeah.
Ball
could be-
fire.
Fall fire plane.
Ball fire.
You guys,
That was it.
ball fire.
Yeah, ball fire plane. Was hit with a meteor.
Oh, oops! This isn't the global map, but yes, you are. I'll see if I can. I don't have one immediately on hand here.
It's in the Discord. I can find it if we need. But yeah, it's
Okay.
basically across the ocean, east, maybe a little south of here.
Yes.
Yeah. I know where it is, but that could implicate something massive.
Yeah.
And Selene is making notes in her Ouija's book of like, full fire catastrophe may have caused the initial fleeing of the Fae and the vampires in the first place.
It's
And then she kind of writes this question down in her book, and it's very obvious because like she's writing in common, but it's very obvious. Like she actually writes this question in a couple of different languages, but for anyone who understands either Abyssal, Celestial, Draconic, or Elvish first, basically she writes this down in those languages first, and it's just what caused the meteor ? And then it's underlined.
I mean, meteors tend to be natural catastrophes.
Not always.
But this is a magic meteor, so it's probably. I mean, maybe it's a natural catastrophe, but it's probably more than just a natural catastrophe.
Someone may have called it from the sky.
Maybe.
Wow.
Actually,
I mean, this could
speaking
even.
of
I mean, it could have even been a magical accident.
Yeah.
speaking of that,
That track.
may I roll a Arcana check to see if I am aware of any spells that might call a meteor from the sky?
I don't think you need to roll. You're steeped in magic enough that, I mean, technically magic can do a ton of things, and so perhaps causing a disaster like this isn't beyond reasoning that something like this could happen. Though, is there a spell that can just do this? Not that you're aware of.
Yeah.
So that's the good and the bad about magic is magic can do anything.
Yeah, magic can do, it's like magic can do anything, but to do something like that it must require a lot of power. So I would say either some
It's
kind
more
of
likely
art.
natural disaster of some kind, but natural
Given
things can cause magical flip-ups because we have wild magic zones.
Well, yes, but
Well, I mean,
back in this era, there weren't wild magic zones.
yeah, the meteors kind of caused the wild magic zones in a way. So
They were an effect.
Not a scientist.
They were an effect, but
Tinkerer.
they were an effect, but not the cause.
Noralai, you are in the room, and I know you're kind of you're eating a cookie and you're just like, this isn't exactly my
Let
cup
the
of tea.
nerds do that nerd thing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all really nerdy.
Noralai, you can make an investigation at advantage as the adults are having their conversation.
Investigation. 15.
Like, I'm giving guidance to everyone. I just forgot that I had it as far as Bright was concerned, or otherwise I would have given it to Bright. But I'll
It's
give
okay.
one to you for your next check. But I'll give you a D4 as well.
it's okay.
Noralai,
All right, Noralai, throw in a D4.
because I am gifting it to everyone.
She's not usually this generous with her guidance. Whew, man, y'all are rocking the 4s on guidance.
Yeah, no,
nice.
guidance is just.
Weejoss is blessing y'all here. All right, so that's gonna take your 16 up to a 20, Noralai.
They're really smart when you think about it.
That sounds really weird. Just thinking, I'm really smart if you think about it. You know, they're sitting here, and you know they're doing the mapping, and they're trying to explore this, and they keep saying wild magic zones, and it's not an attack against you, but Norlai, as far as you know and have always known, you are a wild magic zone in its own way, right? I mean, you just have this power coursing through you. It's you know, manifested some interesting effects every now and again.
I can hear you guys, you know.
And you were kidnapped by the Fae. You were experimented upon by the Fae. In so much that they even took one of these transformation crystals and tried to convert you, maybe? However, it just sort of ended up lodged in your sternum.
And it did something else. Instead of transforming and it consuming you, you consumed it.
You could always do magic before you got the crystal, right? They were probably more likely just trying to harness your powers somehow.
Yeah, that's what I assumed, is that it was a transformation crystal, and somehow your magic just kept it at bay. That's why we can still detect it on you?
And Norlai, your magic has been... I mean, it's magic. I don't think that's in doubt. But speaking of the uniqueness of your magic, you did something with it rather recently that stood out against others who were trying to use their magic. Do you remember what that was?
I was able to hurt the tree.
Yeah, your lightning bolt wasn't absorbed or canceled by the tree when you cast it.
Oh. Is Norlai going to share these little revelations that she has with the party?
What's it to?
I think she would, and just kind of like slightly disjointed, just side comments while you're talking.
Yeah, Selene kind of just like stops what she's saying mid-sentence, and she slowly turns to Norlai and she's like, "You're right. You did manage to hurt the tree. You managed to hurt the tree and cast a spell at it when nobody else could."
Yeah, it's kind of.
I kind of didn't try, but that was because I was trying to keep
I think
their feet.
Yeah.
I thought it was just because I hit you.
Selena's like, "Hold on, I have a theory," and she starts scrolling hastily in her book.
No, she's doing more nerd things.
Oh, it's pretty straightforward. They probably were just trying to harness Norlai's power so that they could fight against whoever made the tree. That's it. Like
that makes so much sense.
Well, I don't think so. I think of it like this. I think of it like
it might be coincidental, but they found out that she's got magic somehow innately tied to the wild magic zone. I don't know.
Well, no. What I think is this. I think that Norlai is capable of wild magic innately, for some reason or another.
Yeah.
And what I think happened...
Well, I mean, she's mentioned that before.
Yeah, but what I think happened, right, is that they didn't know about her magic until they tried to transform her.
That it was completely coincidental.
It's like...
I mean, it wasn't a...
They tried to transform her, but instead of the crystal consuming her and turning her into one of those hybrids, she consumed it. Somewhat. Not completely, but somewhat. It became a part of her rather than her becoming a part of it. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what happened.
Now,
That's...
I saw her feed another crystal to that crystal in her chest.
I'm so upset about that.
What
It's like-
kind?
It was a lot of.
It was a crystal very similar to the one that was embedded in her chest. Now, I'm not going to I'm not going to conjecture on that for the time being, but tell me, Mordecai, what is the one thing that a perfect defense can't defend against?
A perfect defense can't defend against?
Can't defend against riddles.
I'm not good at riddles.
I mean, riddles. But, I don't know, itself?
Exactly. Itself. Norlai has a fey crystal implanted in her chest. She was the only one who managed to hit the tree with a spell. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, because I could
You
have
think
swore
the
I
tree
saw
is a
Jade
fey?
trying to cast something, and it didn't
No,
work.
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Bright tried to cast something and it didn't work. You tried to banish the tree, right? Right?
Yeah, I sure did. It didn't work,
Mhm.
and it wasn't because like sometimes the spell doesn't work. The spell worked, it just didn't work.
Just
Yeah.
fizzled.
Yes.
It just fizzled out. But her lightning bolt did not.
I
Again,
thought that
think
might have
that's 'cause I
been
hate you
related
first.
to like
That
the
was
spell's
amazing.
type, but like how
Maybe.
quickly the spell goes off. But
Well, I mean, banishment is a spell that affects a target instantaneously, but requires a hold.
focus. Yeah.
It requires a hold to keep them there. But the act of actually sending them there in the first place is instantaneous.
I mean,
I'm
sort
pretty
of.
sure
Yeah.
my lightning's in.
Well, I mean, you know, like
Yeah.
you cast the spell and then it either sends them there or doesn't, and then you hold them there with your
Right.
focus.
Right.
Because I mean, we just has whispered in my ear that I can have this spell at my disposal if so desired, but I just haven't felt a need to because, well, you already have it.
It's true.
So it's just a bit of a bit of cross arcane divine cross thing with magic there, and it's like, but Noralize a lightning bolt is an instant strike in a line from the caster,
Mhm.
or at least that's what I have observed of Noralize casting lightning bolts, and that to me says that it didn't nullify the spell because it couldn't see the magic as foreign.
Oh.
No, I don't see it that way because the tree is not Fey, right? The tree is anti-Fey. I mean, maybe it's like renegade Fey or something, but as far as we know, it's only a thing that attacks Fey creatures. So it wouldn't, like, it probably wouldn't be Fey itself unless there's like some sort of
Maybe the
interfaith.
tree is wild
conflict.
magic, and my wild magic.
I mean,
Bright,
the
you
other
did
thing
in
about
fact
the
see from your arcane eye, if you recall, like as you're getting towards the fringes of it, that some Fey, including converted Fey through the crystalline process, entered the glade and suddenly kind of fell slack-jawed and walked up to the tree and were absorbed by it.
Right. It eats Fey things, we know that.
Yes.
But that's not the same as being Fey itself. I mean, maybe, but we don't know that.
Well, that's the thing. It didn't discriminate because Mordecai said that he smelled the most delicious blood that he had ever smelled. I
Yeah.
saw the most beautiful blue light.
Yeah, so
I
I've heard.
I don't think it was discriminate in what it consumed.
I didn't see or smell anything.
But the other thing that, yeah, aside the tree being flesh covered, there were faces in the tree. It was alive in a sense,
Right.
and it's just the coincidence that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
wait. Hold on. Because this is Selene, remembering that she's posted it in game chat, she turns to Noralize like, you didn't experience the tree doing anything, right? You didn't experience
temptation
like,
at all?
glowing or any temptation or anything?
No, you guys were going up, and I didn't really know why you were doing it. And I was just standing there. I didn't see or hear anything.
You didn't smell anything? Didn't taste anything?
No, everything just smelled like wet leaves because it was raining. Or not raining, but it was snowy. But like we smelled that before we got there.
That just seems to further compound my point that something with Noralai and the particular nature of her of the crystal that's in her chest. The tree didn't affect her. She managed to strike it with a spell, even though other spells had been absorbed by the tree. And it's just her? And that's the main thing that's different?
That's really weird.
And mind you, if this tree was made of gnomes, Bright being a gnome wasn't able to affect it.
Yeah. Exactly right. So it could be that...
You think it has to do with the wild magic?
It might.
Possibly.
Your innate wild magic might be what's keeping you from becoming a Fey hybrid, as well as being able to attack anything that's like this tree.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Okay.
Because it didn't make sense that the Fey thing...
Now, that's the thing. When we examined the crystal last time using detect magic, it gave off the feeling of one of the Fey crystals, but was anything different about it? Was anything off compared to the other crystals that had been, like, pure crystals that had been detected? Like the kind of crystals that affected Lycup, for example.
Yeah, right. Well, I never really had time to really identify on those other crystals, especially because we didn't want to touch them. And I didn't even have Peggy Sue yet then. I mean, I had Peggy Sue, but she wasn't special. I mean, she was always special, but she, you know what I mean? She
wasn't turned into a unicorn.
Yeah, she wasn't a unicorn yet. So, I didn't even have a safe way to touch those crystals, and Mage Hand really isn't good enough to do an identify. So we didn't really get very good data on the crystals that we saw in the mine, unfortunately. And then we did the identify on Norlai's crystal, and it came back like it had a polymorph in it, and that could have just meant that it was like polymorphing things. Like it was like a polymorph crystal, just like the ones that we saw. But it also could have meant that like it had something trapped inside it, but then when we tried to dispel it, we couldn't. So I don't know.
Yep, Noralai is absolutely crawling with transmutation magic.
Now, that does kind of bring up a question. Yes, it might have polymorph magic in it, but wild magic can twist the normal fabric of the weave in very unpredictable ways. So, what if Noralai's innate wild magic has, compared to the pure Fey crystals, maybe changed or tainted somewhat due to the effect of the wild magic that she internally has running through her veins?
Yeah, that could totally be it.
Matty, I want to know how common a wild magic sorcerer would be in Mesomasca.
I don't know if it's anything that is ever really noted on a census. I mean, people that can use magic exist, but as you all have discovered, you use magic in your own ways.
It's all very different.
And so there's not really there's no measure. There's really no way to know, you know.
So my book of lore is all about unexplained magic, and presumably some of that might be wild magic sorcerers, and that's kind of, I mean, I wanted to go to Westport to see Dulles eventually, and maybe it's more important that we go see him sooner rather than later, which is kind of ironic because I'm not sure I need to see him myself anymore. But anyway, Yeah. So I would like to read in my book of lore and see if there's anything like that could indicate how common wild magic sorcerers would be.
Sure. You're doing. I'll tell you what. This one is going to be. You're going to find information as this is a specialty book about this. I'm going to have this be an investigation at disadvantage. You can add in other stuff on top of it, but I'm going to lock it in at disadvantage, and we'll see how well you do even in the face of disadvantage.
Okay.
That will give you
Inspiration.
Would you sing me a song of reading,
I'd
please?
like that to be regular roll.
What's that?
I would like that to be a regular roll, if that's all right.
Oh, you want to? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh. So, Bright, for a brief moment, a little, the image of a fickle god kind of sparkles in your eyes.
Also bardic inspiration.
So you get 2d4 and a d8 on a regular investigation roll.
Okay. I think I can do that. And it's investigation, right? Not arcana?
Investigation.
It's the same bonus for me, so
Then
whatever.
you know what, we've been doing investigation. In this case, this is a professional book of magic. It's going to be throwing around terms and lingo and whatnot. So yeah, let's do Arcana for flavor.
Okay. 15 plus,
That's a regular roll.
Oh,
remember?
it was
A regular roll.
Regular roll, so it's 23.
A fickle
Plus-
god's favor was passed on to you, so it's 23.
So
plus.
that's a 32.
okay.
All right.
Plus a d8.
That's with the d8.
Oh,
Right, I included that.
All right. Have any of you seen the anime movie Summer Wars?
I have.
I don't really know anything about anime.
Okay.
Kind of ironic.
There's
Is it delicious?
there's a character who's really good at math, and he just sort of like zones out as he's doing some complex calculations. So Selene or Lethality as a player, you could just conjure to mind when those final calculations are being made in the movie. But Bright, you crack open your book, and your eyes are just, they're darting, and your little hands are just like flipping pages and you know, marking and just, your speed, you're not speed reading, you're speed comprehending, which is the next level. As you know, as you're going through and you're looking for keywords, and you're just with the way that your mind has been set up to access files as a wizard. You know, to you have the executable files of casting magic and such. You're drawing on all of this, and all of you in the room just sees Bright flipping and you know, kind of like licking her lips and just like going back and forth and even like mouthing words, because not only can she then, you know, like read the words, at the same time she can like say the words but inhale the words to get two streams of data into her brain. So with this looking through, there are instances of people who have these wild magic properties themselves. They're not really common, though there is a trend that those who live closer to wild magic zones are more likely to develop wild magic themselves. So statistically, the Fallfire Plains do have people who can do this spontaneous magic, and a very close second, like it's second place by a hair, is Uct. Uct is rife with these pockets of wild magic, and just the way that magic is odd and interacts and flows. And if you carry this over, you know, you can even like bust out the map and everything. We have this giant crater that scoops down from the continental shelf into this inner sea. And then there's like this there's the fractured mountains in the south, and there's this volcano, obviously, that's not really hotly contended, pun kind of intended there. And then you have this valley of the this graveyard valley of the dragons. And Mesomasca is kind of at the trail end of that, and just on the northern tip is where that wild magic zone exists. And Norlai is from Mesomasca, so by what you're reading, there's probably more people in Mesomasca than, say, Kandor to the north that are going to exhibit these properties. And when you are reading this, your understanding and you're clicking, like people can almost hear you think. I don't know, maybe even off on the side just to help yourself think. You're making noises, magically or otherwise. So the massive regional, as per Mesotopia, not Mesomasca, per Mesotopia, the massive wild magic zone is the crater in the Fallfire Plains. There's a lot of wild magic, secondly, in Uct to the south, and it seems to travel west in that regard. And you're talking about this tree. This tree doesn't exist in Mesomasca, and it was made from gnomes? ? And we know that with the exception of a bit of a population of rock gnomes in the north, in Aslandia, the majority of the gnomes live in Uct. And this tree, I think y'all even were theorizing somehow it is from Uct. I mean, it has a lot of it doesn't fit into the flora, and it's covered in gnomes. In some form or fashion. And we're thinking of this giant crater in Uct in wild magic and its dispersion, and the fact that people who live closer to wild magic zones are more prone. I mean, but when I say more prone, like 1 in 10,000. Maybe in Fallfire it's more like 5 in 10,000, or like we could reduce that down. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. So it's a slightly more common, but there are people who seem to be instilled with this. The book and all the magics and histories, like, you just know that whatever this is, it interferes with magic. You can call it. It's not really anti-magic as an oppositional force. Wild magic seems to be the consensus in what to call it, but this is a presence. This is something that seems to affect all brands of magic. From those who beseech favors from their deities, to those who study books and the old arcane traditions, to those who like bards they make magic from themselves as they project their mood, their desires, their emotions, is how their magic. To cutting across all of these different styles, we have this force that exists. A force that directly interferes or impacts with magic. That said, think now to the other clues that you have discussed so far, and what that could mean for things like your timeline, or things like your other interactions, what that could mean for Norlai, what that could mean for, who knows what else.
I have a theory. These zones of wild magic popped up after the catastrophe in Fire Plane.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And they're most centered on Fire Plane. My theory is this. The wild magic, the force that comprises these effects that we call wild magic. This only really appeared in a big way after the surface of the world itself was severely wounded. And it spread to places that are close by, relatively speaking. It spread south from Volfire into Uct, and it spread west across the sea into Mesomasca, to the northern tip of Mesomasca.
Mhm.
That was actually my first thought, but I didn't want to say it. So thank you for saying it for me, Derek.
You might want to clarify for the viewers then.
Yeah, so I had the thought that it very much sounds like Final Fantasy VII post-Meteor. How it's stuff to do with the live stream and everything like that. But,
That's entirely possible.
But it's like, I believe that the energy, the force that makes up, that has this effect on magic that we call wild magic, is the very blood of the world slipping out. And those who are infused with that wild magic innately are those who have been infused with this energy. And this energy could very well be anti-Fae.
I mean, maybe. I figured that the meteor just came down, and, meteor metal has special properties. They can forge special magic weapons for meteor metal and whatever, so I figured it just had special properties, and, like, when it landed, little bits of meteor got scattered around, and that's what kind of caused the wild magic. But maybe the magic comes from inside the earth. That could be it, too.
Yeah.
But I mean, from those images that we saw in the cavern, remember what was crawling up from the earth? The Fae. The Fae were crawling up from the earth.
So do you think, that the meteorite is made of, like, some sort of Fae essence, or possibly even the Fae are the ones that caused it to fall down?
My theory is that something or someone caused this meteor to fall, and as such, the Fae have decided to return, and the world itself being wounded as it was due to this meteor, created something to fight back. Something that was distinctly anti-Fae.
Weird.
And thus we have wild magic. Because that was a very curious thing. Remember that whilst in the wild magic field, we, Bright and you, Mordecai, and myself had wild magic effects happen even though we are not those kinds of spellcasters. We are not like Norrelite.
Right.
Even Jade had something happen at one point. I mean, she got turned into a unicorn, which was...
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Kind of embarrassing, though, with the flower fields, but it was still fun.
But... the thing is, right, that after being exposed to that energy, and for a little while, I managed to invoke this wild magic willingly.
Yeah.
I
could do
managed
that
to
too.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is, normally that shouldn't have happened. If normal magic theory is to be believed, I shouldn't be able to utilize arcane energy in that way. So
Yeah.
I believe that this particular energy is something that anyone can use, so long as they open their mind to letting themselves be a conduit to it. And I think that particular part might hold a key to dealing with this. I think the wild magic within itself is a very distinctly anti-Fae energy. It doesn't particularly like Fae and things created from Fae. And I think that the tree's crystal, you know, it did remind me a little bit of the transformation crystals.
Transformation crystals?
Well, the crystals at the base of the tree, the one that Jade sacrificed herself to get. It looked to me a little bit like a transformation crystal, but it was different. So
I didn't really get a good look at it, so.
Yeah.
And it would seem that, you know, the magic in that area was somewhat deadened. In that, you know, the tree was absorbing spells.
Sure.
Except for the one person who's more infused with wild magic than any of us.
Then it seems that Noraline's integral in making sure that all of this doesn't necessarily get out of hand.
I don't really.
I would go a little bit further to say that wild magic as a force is what, and those who can wield it are integral. It's a big step to make, but I think that's what's going on here. But no, Norala, you were going to say something?
I don't really want to be integral to all this. I just want to go find my brother.
One simple desire in the middle of all of this.
I think we all wish that the only thing that we had to really, like, I don't want to be part of some kind of big world scheme of some kind either. I would rather just live out the rest of my life and be happy and, you know, die of old age somewhere. And I don't think we're gonna get that.
No. We're past that now. I mean, especially since, you know, you died.
I don't think the world's gonna get that.
Not unless those who know better do something about it. And right now, we are the only ones. Where is?
Start telling people.
I used to want that, but that was a long time ago. I kind of got used to not wanting that. It's not so bad once you get used to it. It can actually do a lot of fun things when you're...
I'm reminded of the little phrase from Goblin Slayer being like, is he always like this? You get used to it. With the deadened eyes. But no, I
think we all just wanted a simple life. It doesn't look like we're gonna get that anymore.
I just wanted to study my dragon, but that, unfortunately, that is not a thing. Normal is not a thing that we have anymore. We have bigger parts to play now, and that includes you, whether you wish to have that particular part, whether you wish to play that particular part or not, Norway. The question becomes now whether you want to embrace this and try and forge a path to happiness, or to simply let things happen and face whatever it is that these things, whether it be the Fae or the vampires or the Fomorians or the dragons or the giants or anyone. All of these beings that have a stake in this. You can either become a slave to their desires or forge your own path forward and maybe find happiness along the way.
Reminds
That
me
is
of
the
something
choice.
Jade said.
That is the choice that we all have now.
Jade said that the more we fight against our path, my path, all of our paths, the more painful it's gonna be. If we fight this, is that gonna come true? I don't.
If we fight this, it is most definitely going to be a painful experience. That is something that goes without saying, but something that we need to decide for. Those who seek to change the world for their own end, to the detriment of others.